female fitness myth is that training harder is better, otherwise known as no pain, no gain. By harder, I'm going to try to address training longer is better, training more sessions, more volume is better, harder in intensity and strength, or more endurance is better, heavier is better, and so on and so forth. And so while I'm going to start with acknowledging that HIIT training, which is high intensity interval training, has been shown to help obese women lose weight, it also shows like amazing body composition changes in healthy young women. Those women in those studies, if you're the kind of trainer or person that's reading them, were not doing HIIT training for every session of their exercise program every week. So the myth we're busting is that all the sessions have to be as hard as possible all the time. And if you do more of them, that's better too. Or those sessions are even longer and harder, that's better. It's not true. Not true. Here I am, if you're an everyday woman, giving you permission to drop the ball, slack off, go easy, be lazy at least once a month. It's just not, there is just no point in going hard all the time. And there's a bunch of other issues around going hard all the time for women particularly, and that's the loss of their menstrual cycle. So if you're not getting sufficient calories and nutrients to cover the cost of your training, you will lose your menstrual cycle, which seems like a gift, but it's really not, because as soon as you lose that cycle, you're at higher risk of heart disease, osteoporosis, and a bunch of other serious health concerns at a prematurely young age, okay? So you're not higher risk when you're 50, you're higher risk like when you're 30 of those things. So personal trainers that I'm speaking to find this hard as well, and so I'd really like you to hear me out and take it on board. There's a number of reasons why training hard every single session can be detrimental to your female client's health. So I'm going to list a few that I can think of now. Women generally have more problems with sleep, and sleep is obviously crucial to recovery. So if they're not sleeping well, they can't recover from a high intensity bout of exercise well either. That means they're going to be eating away at their muscle mass and their bone density. They're going to reach fatigue and exhaustion. If it's an anxiety problem stopping them sleeping, then exercise can sometimes make it worse, and so on and so forth. Women are also more susceptible to ligament injury at certain times of the month. So if you are flogging the shit out of them in every single session, then you are putting them at risk at certain times of the month of injury. They're particularly around ovulation and menstruation. You want to be winding back that intensity, especially in the plyometric sort of exercise field. Like if you've got soccer players that you're training, wind it back a bit and reduce the complexity to allow the woman in front of you to control the exercise a little better, just to be conservative at those times. Women need to manage their stress generally more than men, and they also respond to stress differently. Now, women respond to stress primarily by an elevated heart rate. So if you then go and throw a high intensity session at them, you're adding stress upon stress on their heart rate, right? So what a chronically stressed or highly stressed woman needs is they need that brought down. Otherwise, it's unnecessary stress. And of course, stress has a hormonal effect, and those hormonal effects have knock-on effects to their menstrual cycle, their experience of menstruation, and a bunch of other stuff that it's just too large to go into right now. Women's resilience, their ability to recover, and their tolerance to high loads or high intensity exercise will fluctuate throughout the month. Actually, it will fluctuate throughout the day, but an easy rule of thumb is that if they're approaching menstruation, that is like red flag for, do you really, for the question, Do you really, 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 really have to flog her today? Just leave it out there. You'll find if you start practicing this that throwing a rest week or an off week in every now and then actually does not affect her performance or her results whatsoever, and it will make it much easier for her to attend your sessions when she's not 100%. Women are often time poor, especially if they're mums and working mums as well. That is a huge generalization, what I'm about to say, but after 20 years running gyms, this is what I see, and that is the busy mums are nutrient poor and time poor, and sometimes haven't drunk enough water either. So if you go and ask for a max effort from a body that does not have adequate nutrition, calories, water, you can erode her health state on that particular day rather than boosting it and making her stronger, fitter, faster. You might even get her eating away her own muscle, right? It's not ideal. Don't do it. And then finally, women are much higher risk of heart disease, and hard and high intensity exercise is often contraindicated. So whilst, you know, we're not going to say all women should do moderate intensity exercise only, it is something to screen for. It is something to, like a topic to understand well. And then it's something to keep in mind when you're choosing to wield high intensity exercise. So for women who are sleep deprived, stressed, nutrient poor, poorly hydrated, or at a certain time of the month, training less and reducing the intensity can be better for her health and fitness outcomes. So depending on her circumstances, reducing the intensity can be, like, it doesn't have to be max heart rate. You can reduce sets, reps. You can reduce load, but you don't have to if you're doing them slower. You can reduce time, speed. You can increase rest between sets. There's a lot of ways to vary the variables on any given day to hit the needs of your client and fluctuate your intensity to get better results. So in studies done on resistance training, for example, in women specifically, they found that low rep ranges and low set volume was ideal for strength and size results than going higher ranges. So in women, 3 sets of 10 is less beneficial than 5 sets of 3. Right? And with a weight heavy enough that you can only do 3. So just something to think about. Again, if you're strength training, less is often better with the heavier weight. In studies done on endurance training in women, the law of diminishing returns applies. So the longer and the larger the volume of exercise, and we're talking marathons and ultra marathons sort of level, like extreme, the larger the volume, I've lost my place, then the smaller their health and longevity return, okay? So for general populations, if she's not training for a marathon or ultra marathon, then it's often like not purposeful or meaningful to do long, hard sessions with your clients. You may get better results doing HIIT training at a small dose of 5 to 15 minutes 2 or 3 times a week than you are doing a 45-minute or 7-hour run, okay? And then there's also, with endurance training in particular, the issue of adequate nutrient intake in their menstrual cycle. So if a woman loses her cycle due to overtraining, undereating, or malnutrition, then she is at much higher risk of premature heart disease, osteoporosis, and so on and so forth, which I've already said. Okay, I cannot drive that home hard enough, that her menstrual cycle is a really important vital sign, and you have to listen to it. You have to monitor it, track it, and listen to it. So if you need a rule of thumb, and if you're training just women who are here for everyday health, here is what I would recommend. whether it's intensity, load, reps, sets, time, rest period, volume, or frequency, you want to hit those 90 to 100% intensity, volume, time, whatever, when she's in her peak physical condition. That means she's eaten a wide variety of food. She's had adequate calories to cover the cost of your training. She's adequately hydrated. She's sleeping. She's not under massive lifestyle or emotional stress. She's feeling resilient. And if she's strength training, she's in her follicular phase, then you go for it. But otherwise, the rest should be sort of sub-maximal and dependent on how she's feeling, how well she's eaten, how well she's slept, how well she's hydrated, how well she's recovered from previous sessions, what phase of her cycle she's in, how she's feeling emotionally, and first and foremost, her goals. So even if her goals are powerlifting or like triathlon, it still is not conducive to go hard, fast, further every single session. You still hit it and back off and hit it and back off. It's like acclimatizing when you're going to high altitudes. You go up, you hit the high altitude, you back off and come down again. And then you work your way steadily, and then you go up, and then you come back to wherever you worked to before. That is how you train without overtraining. So if their goal is health and happiness, you may choose to never flog your clients, because the best bang for buck, whether it's strength training or cardio training, is in that moderate zone. Moderate intensity exercise has great benefits on body composition, fat loss, bone density, mental health, prevention of dementia, prevention of heart disease, risk of breast cancer, inflammation. I could go on and on and on and on. So there is no research that says going harder every session all the time is better. Vary the variables, hit those high intensities, but also back the hell off sometimes, because that is what will yield you the best results.